Thank you. For this next session, we have the newest baby, the newest partner. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Louisa Ponampalam, who is the ED of MareCet, and her main goal is to raise the profile of marine species in Malaysia. I actually had the pleasure of visiting her and an awesome team in Malaysia 2 weeks into my job. We won't get into that. And when I tell you how passionate Louisa is and her team about their work, you guys won't believe me. MareCet has been around for 10 years this year, but we went out, we were on a boat for a while looking for whales. When she saw the whales, she almost fell off the boat. That's how excited she was. But she's seen them for at least 10 years, but she's still as passionate as she was on day one. So I'm very excited to see this presentation and to introduce you to all of you guys as our new partner. So, Dr. Louisa.
Selamat tengah hari. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Louisa. Thank you, Zoe, for the introduction. So from Patagonia, I take you to more tropical climes right now. Imagine going home to your home. You open the front door and you walk into a bunch of booby traps, right? Suddenly you're snagged, your legs snagged or your arms snagged. Marine mammals, why do I love them so much? In a changing world, they live in an ocean full of booby traps. Yet they persist. Despite all odds, they're still there. Some are doing better than others, but it's a challenge to live in the sea. And so I consider them as very resilient animals. And I love them so much, and I do the work that I do, and MareCet does the work that we do, because if they are resilient enough to persist, then surely we must do all that we can to help them better survive. So just a little starter here for a species that I will focus on today. I just gave this title, A Whale of a Discovery in Conserving the Ocean Giants That We Love. I have loved marine mammals since I was a kid. Doing this work really is part of a childhood dream. It was a childhood dream of my co-founder. I'll mention it a little later on. And so I just want to share this love that we have with you today. So we're here located in the heart of Southeast Asia. Malaysia is located in the heart of Southeast Asia. We're a melting pot of cultures, heritage, and a hot spot of marine and terrestrial biodiversity. In fact, the dress I'm wearing today is a product of that cultural heritage. This is batik, printed on with our MareCet dolphin motif. So we come from a very special place, from a very special region, but where marine mammals are not exactly getting the attention that they deserve. Since we are relatively new here in the WCN, I thought I would give you a quick rundown of who we are. So we are a small grassroots organization established 10 years ago. We work primarily in Peninsular Malaysia, and we have projects all across the country. We have 4 pillars. Our work is completely driven by scientific research. Science forms the basis of everything that we do. And that science feeds into our outreach and education programs, as well as policy advocacy work. We make sure that our science feeds into recommendations for conservation at varying levels of governance, local governance, state governance, federal governance. And because I'm living out a childhood dream, and I saw that many others in Malaysia did not necessarily have that opportunity, it was decided long ago that MareCet would be a platform to build local talent for conservation leadership and the next generation of marine mammal scientists. So MareCet was established with this guy here. His name is Fairul, and we both found that we have a shared vision and love for marine mammals in Malaysia. And growing up, we both could not find much information about marine mammals locally. So we didn't know each other until after university. We came back and found that, hey, there's something here we could do. There's a niche that we could fill. And so we established MareCet to do all the things that I just mentioned that we would do. And I'm so glad that today we are a team of about 10 of us in the core team now. I call this the dream team. We are able to do all that we do because of this fantastic lineup of young Malaysian ladies. I wish there were guys on our team, but often the ones who come knocking at our door are the girls. Nonetheless, they are amazing. And in this lineup here, actually, 2 of them are WCN scholars. One of them, whom is with me today, Saliza, raise your hand. She's just finished with her PhD. Yeah, so she's our bioacoustician. She specializes in the study of sound. So we're trying to establish what are the impacts of underwater noise to these marine mammals. And that's what Saliza is going to be focusing on in the coming years. We work on a variety of species of cetaceans, dolphins and porpoises, dugongs, which are cousins of manatees, and as well as the Bryde's whale. That will be the focus of my talk today. I featured some of these other species in previous Expo talks, so today we will talk more about this guy here. When we first started MareCet, we never imagined we would have the opportunity to study large whales. I knew we would study dolphins, I knew we would study porpoises, but I didn't imagine that we would have the opportunity to study this ocean giant. Now here in California, I think whales are pretty synonymous with Californian waters. Unfortunately, in Malaysia, that's not the case. Largely in Southeast Asia, people don't think about whales and Southeast Asia in the same frame, even though it's a very common thing here. I'll show you an example of this. In June, actually when Tommy and Zoe were with us on our survey, we had some amazing sightings of these whales. One of our volunteers, she posted this video on her Facebook. And it garnered so many comments, and I've pasted some of them here. You can see people were completely blown away. These are people living in Malaysia who were completely blown away by the fact that we have whales. They had no idea, right? How do we begin to care about something and protect something that you didn't even know exists, right? So there is a perception that whales typically live in colder waters. However, this is the Bryde's whale. The Bryde's whale is a tropical species of whale found throughout Southeast Asia, found in Malaysian waters. It is characterized by these 3 rostral ridges, 3 ridges that are found on top of its head. To identify it, I usually will need to get a good shot of its head to determine that this is the Bryde's whale. There is another species of whale, which I have yet to detect alive in Malaysian waters, but I'm still looking for it, and they're called the Omura's whale. Now, the Omura's whale only has 1 single ridge coming down the top of its head. So the Bryde's whale, this is the characteristic trait of this species. And I'd been hearing about this whale for years. Divers tell me they saw a whale. I'll see someone post on Instagram or Facebook they saw a whale. And I could no longer ignore the fact that we had whales out there, and I needed to go out to look for them and to discover more about them. So in 2019, we had the opportunity to go out and look for them, and we found them. And then COVID hit, so we had to stop for a while. But late last year, we were able to resume the project to learn more about them. Next is this video, a drone footage of these whales that we filmed in June. Now, this might look like any other drone footage of whales that you might have seen online. Looks very normal, right? You can see the first 2 whales. They're actually a mother and calf pair, a mother and her larger calf. From the boat, they actually look the same, quite the same size. It wasn't until we flew the drone that we discovered, oh, actually one's a baby. A larger baby, but a baby nonetheless. Now, why is this footage special, even though it looks just like any other footage that you see online? This is the first time large whales have been videoed from the air in Malaysia. And you are seeing it, For the very first time. We have not put it up on any of our social media or anything, so this is special. You get first dibs on the footage. Now, what are we doing with these whales? Why are we studying them? So this is my team on the boat. We are about 70 kilometers offshore. We spend about 9 hours a day on the boat. What are we trying to find out? We're trying to find out how many whales are coming into the area, how are they using the area, what are the threats stacked up against them, what are the conservation needs. We have zero information. On the IUCN list of threatened species, Bryde's whales are listed as least concern. I don't think so. I think it's because we know so little. And some scientists don't want to give the rating of data deficient because they think that doesn't do anything. So they give it least concern. I don't think we need to be least concern. I think we need to find out what is of concern. So we are trying to understand who's coming to the area, to the study site. We want to understand how they're using the area. What are the threats? What are the human activities that are overlapping with their habitat? And one of the things that we are discovering is that the area is important for their feeding. This is what we call open mouth feeding. These whales are gulping in, you can see anchovies swimming around, jumping into their mouths, and they stay open like this between 7 to 50 seconds, anything from 7 to 50 seconds, and then they gulp all that anchovy into their mouth, and they use their tongue to push the water out through the baleen that filters out all that water, retaining the fish, and then they swallow. So we have seen across 6 different surveys 3 different types of feeding behaviors. This is the most exciting one by far, and this was just in June. So again, Zoe and Tommy were so lucky to catch this. And we first saw this actually on a really rainy day. We were trying to get back towards, there's an island nearby in the middle of that vast sea that we were trying to seek shelter from, when suddenly these whales just popped up and started doing this, and that's the moment where I nearly wanted to jump in. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So we're discovering that the area is important for their feeding. Okay. And for the very first time in all of marine mammal science history in the country, we were able to collect poop. So suddenly the water turns brown and we're like, poop, somebody. And we weren't ready. We weren't expecting it. And luckily our boatman had this little cut up bucket thing for us to collect the poop. And then I noticed, if you notice on the bottom photograph, I was like, what is that spider looking thing? So that's part of the poop clump that we were collecting. But when you kind of shake that all off, you see that it ate a crab. It ate a crab by accident. So they don't eat crabs. It's not part of their diet as far as we know. But I think there was an innocent crab that just got caught up in the mix, and it came out as a crab. So just something fun to add to this presentation. Now, the next important thing here is that these whales are using the study area, the area that we're studying them offshore, as a nursing ground. So we have about 15 whales now in our catalog in this very new project, and about 4 calves that we have documented. Larger calves, like the one you saw in the drone footage, and really baby ones that you see in this photograph. This was taken in March this year. And just last week, we saw another mother and calf pair. The calf was around this size. So we don't know yet where the whales are coming in from and where they go. But what we know is that there's always whales in the area. And even when there's not that many whales around, like last week when we were in the field, there's always a mother and calf pair that seems to be around. So somehow the area is special and important for moms to come to nurse her young, maybe to teach her young how to feed, how to hunt, how to protect itself. And so it's a good thing, because these would be important notes for us to take when we want to try and do conservation initiatives on the ground at the policy level as well. Now, even though we are offshore, 70 kilometers offshore, sometimes, you think if you're offshore, you can't see the land anymore. It's like out of sight, out of mind. You might imagine a blue sea that's pristine and crystal clear. But what we found is that out there is this. This big clumps of ghost nets, abandoned, discarded fishing nets that get tangled up with other nets, other ropes, other trash, sometimes marine life, and they're floating around. We picked this up about 20 meters, just about 10, 20 meters from the whales that you saw feeding just now. It's a real threat. In 2008, we had a Bryde's whale strand on the other side of the country. And when they cut it open, they found things like this inside the stomach. So the threat is real. But not just, this is the big stuff that you can see. Now, as we go along on our Transact line doing our surveys, we see small pieces of plastic. Some you can tell it came from a plastic bag. Some, I don't know where it came from. It's broken down so small. But you can see all this trash down to 5 meters of water depth, just floating. It's like a plastic soup out there. So just because we can't see the water out there, it doesn't mean that there is no threat. And this is certainly an issue. And it really has gotten me thinking, what can we do as an organization? Now, the trash has come from the land mostly. So, of course, we need to stem the source. And it's not a straightforward fix. But I've also been thinking, what can we do when we're out there? Can I install a big giant scooper on the side of my research boat to just scoop it all up? Or what do I do? Now, if anybody has any ideas, I'm all ears. So why do we do all this research on whales that are far from shore that we can't see standing on the beach? In 2018, there was an exercise to try and designate and identify important marine mammal areas in the Southeast Asia region. I had known about the whales. At that time, we hadn't started this project, but I'd known about the whales, and so I thought, let's try to nominate this area because we were getting reports that the whales are there, they've been seen feeding, etc. So we put up the nomination to the IUCN task force for this to become an important marine mammal area. Unfortunately, our nomination was rejected because they said we did not have data of our own. We were just using third-party data from people's videos online, Facebook, Instagram. So the idea now is that we want to do all that we can to collect the data to try and renominate this area as an important marine mammal area, because that will allow us to have stronger basis to lobby for protection of the habitat at our national governance level. In 2019, we had 3 of our other field sites nominated as an important marine mammal area because we had the data for it. You can see those are the pink stars. Those are the areas that have been designated. The one in the black star is where we hope we can add on to that map so that we can better safeguard the habitat of these animals. Moving along, I mentioned that many people are unaware about marine mammals, about these whales in the country. So, how do we fix that situation? In 2014, I was at the Marine Mammal Center in Sausalito for a visit, and I was very inspired by their whale bus program. The whale bus is this program where they decked out a school bus with all things marine mammals, and they went from school to school to reach out to kids about whales and dolphins. And I thought, if only we can do this in Malaysia someday. So during the pandemic, we had the opportunity to apply for some funding, and I thought, why not try pitch it to the funders for a nationwide tour? What if I could get a truck that would travel all around the country to bring the sea into people's classrooms, into people's minds? And so this year in February, we launched our nationwide tour of the Whales on the Wheels Mobile Marine Exhibition nationwide tour. It's a mouthful. You can see we have traveled all around the country twice now to 7 states. We've reached 20 locations. We've covered almost more than 2,400 kilometers, which is, I think, about 1,500 miles. We've spent hours and hours talking to people, and so far we've reached over 2,000 visitors. Our target by the end of the tour is to try and reach at least 10,000 visitors. I hope we can. And so right after this trip at the Expo, we are heading back for tour 3 of this nationwide tour on the island of Langkawi, which is basically the base from which we leave to survey the whales. So what do? Here's a snapshot. This is the inside of the truck where we deck it out with all things marine mammals. We also have a wall about marine life in general. We have props for the kids to touch and hold, to learn the difference between a dolphin, a whale, and a shark, for example. We have a sound station where we play them different sounds of marine mammals. We play them different sounds of what it sounds like when a ship is nearby or when there's piling happening underwater, and how that overlaps with the sounds of marine mammals. So kids really get a feel of what it's like to be in the underwater environment. We have a corner where they can pretend to be marine mammal researchers like us. We give them a pair of binoculars and we tell them to scan over to the poster to look for the dolphins on the poster. And we have interactive sections of the exhibition where we teach them about marine pollution. We play this game where we ask them, how long do you think it takes for this item to decompose? So like, for example, a disposable diaper, I think it takes about 500 years. But a lot of kids will say 2 days, 10 years. And when you flip the card and you say 500 years, you see their faces like, and that's always my favorite part, to sort of, it shocks them, but that, you know, that information sticks. So we have all sorts of activities on this nationwide tour that we try to bring to kids, bring to families, adults alike, so that people learn that we have marine mammals in Malaysia and why it's important to protect them, protect their habitat. Some of the things that we do also involve community, and I always say everyone can be an everyday ocean hero. This is a project we conducted late last year, and it's a community project where we built a pavilion for the local kids in the village on Langkawi Island where we work. It was really a communal effort. We had members of the local community help build this pavilion. We had members of our team become carpenters. And in fact, one of our WCN supporters and donors, Mr. Aaron Hyland, I think he's an architect here in San Francisco, he very generously gave us his time and designed the pavilion for us in the style of a Malay village house architecture. Yes, he was very kind to design it for us, and we built this in about 2 weeks. And this is used by these kids. They're called the Clean Village Gang, or in our local language, Gang Bersih Kampung, for their extracurricular nature learning activities. So it's here that they learn about nature, they learn about ecosystems, they learn about the importance of recycling, they learn about what they need to do to be environmental champions. Here's a snapshot of them running one of the activities of learning. I think this was a day where their mentor had them learn about marine mammals, and you see in the on the screen is the activity book that we published the year before. So they learn all about marine mammals. Basically, it's like the whale truck condensed into an activity book for them. And I will show you the next slide where we will have Tamina telling you about dolphins.
Dolphins are mammals.
Okay.
There are 400 species of dolphins, and the most common dolphins are bottlenose dolphins.
Yeah, so that's Tamina telling you a little bit about bottlenose dolphins. Now, at MareCet, we are committed to investing in education of the next generation, and this is one of the ways that we do it. We try to reach out to kids and kids in the local community. These are kids who grew up on the island, and some never knew there were dolphins in their backyard. So we're trying to change that. We're trying to provide them with platforms and avenues to learn about the environment. Now, I just want to almost wrap up by putting this slide up here. This is a picture of a dwarf spinner dolphin. You might have seen, for those of you who might have traveled to Hawaii or to the Maldives, you might have seen spinner dolphins. This is the dwarf form of the spinner dolphin. It's a subspecies. This photograph was taken just last week while we were on survey, and it's a new species record for our project site. Very happy about that. But the point here is your support matters deeply. With your support, we can do more. With your support, we can push further. We can push further offshore. We can make further discoveries. We can understand better what are the issues out there. And when we have that information, we are able to translate them to our local stakeholders, to our community members, to the kids. And they, together with us, can be the purveyors of change for a better ocean, for a better future, for all. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for your support of wildlife conservation, for your support of marine conservation, but truly your support matters deeply. And you know, it's really an honor to be up here, standing here, talking to you, you know, on WCN's 20th anniversary and on our own 10th year anniversary to be a new partner of the network. It's really a proud moment for us. And so again, I want to say thank you to everybody for believing in us, for supporting us. And I basically want to end by saying terima kasih, thank you. Once again, imagine a world where there are no whales. Imagine a world where there are no dolphins. That's awful. So let's keep working. You know, the ocean is the basin from which life is supported. The sea gives us our food. The sea gives us oxygen. The sea gives us so many things: recreation, wonder, wonderful species like these ocean giants. So it is worth it for all of us to want to protect it. So I do hope, and I urge you to support all of us, to support marine conservation, so that we can continue enjoying the blue planet that supports our lives and the lives of the next generation to come. So, and what you've seen here is just really a small tip of the iceberg of what we do. So if you want a deeper dive of what we do, please feel free to come up and speak to me or to Saliza. So thank you so much.
Terima kasih, Louisa. That was awesome. We have some time for questions.
Can you tell us more about the bird's whale and anything that you know in terms of what their range, any information? I've never heard of that species.
Thank you for your question. So the Brutus whale is a whale that is actually found all over the world, although I think there's actually more than... Currently, there are 2 recognized species of Brutus whales, Balanoptera brudii and Balanoptera edeni. The ones we have are the edeni. But I actually think that there are more species than just the 2. Scientists just haven't quite done the taxonomy on it. But they are found in tropical and subtropical waters all around the world. We know very little about them. For example, if you're familiar with humpback whales, you'd know that that's how they feed, and they also do this bubble net feeding. But some of us who are in Southeast Asia who are studying these whales have found that Brutus whales also do this bubble net feeding. So we know a lot about humpback whales, grey whales, blue whales, but a lot less about Brutus whales. In the upper Gulf of Thailand, I have colleagues who have been studying them over the last 5-6 years. What they're finding there is that the whales are there most of the year. They're there to feed, they're there to breed. And we're also finding that in our site. They're there to feed and they're there to breed. In our site, the question now is, where do they go? Where do they come from? Brutus whales do not, as far as we know, do not undertake the long distance migrations that grey whales and humpback whales undertake. But I do believe they roam around within their range. in our site, Thailand is really just, the border with Thailand is just right there. So I actually think that they move into Thailand and come back around, and they probably follow their prey. So last week when we were out there, we only saw 2 whales, was a mom and a calf, but we didn't see anybody else. And our boatman said that basically anchovy season was pretty much over. So I think they go where their food goes, but that's the question. Where do they go? We've seen whales with scars, probably from either entanglement with rope or boat strike. So definitely they are impacted by these human activities out there. It's just that they're out there, so it just costs that much more to go out to look for them. But I'm hoping that with everyone's support, and as well with other funding sources that we try to obtain, we are able to do more to learn more about them. And in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll be able to tell a better story about these whales.
Hi, would you mind explaining again why the IUCN hesitates to use the label data deficient? Why is least concern a better classification for them?
I think some people have the opinion that data deficient, some people think data deficient should drive more efforts because then we need more data. But then some people feel like it's data deficient is not really a status of how threatened they are. So then the next best thing would be to just say least concern, because you don't know if they're threatened or not. So it's kind of like a very generic, no one wants to think about category. I personally think they should be looked at, and they should not be least concerned, maybe at least vulnerable. But yeah, I think we have a lot of work to do all over the world for Bryde's whales, and more so in Southeast Asia.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to ask, apart from the waste in the water and other human impacts, are there marine mammals targeted by people, maybe by killing or things, other threats like that? And do you get support from other organizations, and how much government support?
To answer your first question, very fortunately for us in Malaysia, hunting is not a problem for any marine mammal species. So at least that's one big threat that we don't have to worry about. They are fully protected by law. So in Malaysia, they are protected by law. You can't hunt them, you can't keep them, you can't trade them, you can't eat them, etc. However, their habitats are not protected by law. So that's where we want to try and change that. In terms of support, we do have external funding support from international grants, corporate partnerships, as well as in-kind support from our government agencies. We're trying to work more closely with the main federal government agency to provide training on stranding response, training on survey methodology, training on how to disentangle an entangled whale. So that will probably and hopefully be in our 2023 work program. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. And just like Louisa and Poppy said, really, we thank you for all the support that you're giving to our partners. Our partners are just growing bounds. Their teams are expanding due to some of the support that we get from you guys. And we're really so grateful. And we look forward to this relationship, to expanding more, getting more partners, but also just growing with you guys and the partners that we have. So thank you very much. We have a small break until 3:15, and then the cheetahs are on stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.